So who are the first early roles and how did that start to evolve over the years?
Yeah, so I kind of split up building a media company into 3 phases. First phase is going from, 0 to 1 million. Next phase is going from 1 million to 3, and then 3 to 10. So the first phase is all about, just having an editor and a VA. That's phase 1. Basically, you're making content. You've got, your editor that you send all the footage to, and you have a VA that kind of schedules the posts. And that'll get you to like pretty close to 1 million across all platforms if you have a really good content strategy. But then you get into phase 2, which is hiring a creative director or a content manager, which is basically like what I do for Dan. And that's when, people go pro and they kind of, put a little bit more resources and time behind their engineering of the content system. And that's when you start hiring, 4, 5, 6 people on your team that can actually like execute while you work on strategy. And then the phase 3 is where you basically have channel owners, which is where we're at now, where we're at a team of 15 so that every single person owns a channel. So I've got a person that owns LinkedIn. I've got a person that owns Twitter. I've got a person that owns Instagram, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, YouTube, long form, what are the other, Snapchat, right? Like we're on all platforms and there's an owner for each one. And that's, more aspirational than anything. I don't think you should start there, right? A lot of people think that they should start in phase 3, but you do really have to scale because there's different things that you should do at different phases, right? Like you shouldn't necessarily pay your content manager, $1 million a year starting off, right? Like that's a waste of resource. But what you should do is, start with, a super lean team and, hire some editors, get some bonus structures in place, and scale from there. But yeah, that's basically how I think about going from, 0 to 1, 1 to 3, and then 3 to 10.
Yeah. So 0 to 1, that's where, what,
most people
90% of the people are? Like even say 0 to 100, 0 to 200 kind of thing. What's the most important framework that you've developed that you think can help people plow through that sort of 0 to 50, 0 to 100 range?
Yeah. I think if I had to distill all my frameworks down to one, it would be the HYDE framework, like hook, explain, illustrate, teach. And it basically explains how to actually make really impactful short form content. And it even applies to long form content in some cases. So how it goes is you hook people in, right? Using context, contrarian statement, and then creating an open loop. Then you explain it a little bit. So you would like double down on the topic. Then you illustrate it using a story, analogy, example, anything to actually take something that's known that, is, let's say a puzzle, and something that's unknown, your framework, and connect them. So an example that I could use right now is like making content without a framework, without the HYDE framework is like I'm trying to put a puzzle together without the picture on the box, right? So you kind of connect something that you already know, puzzles, to something that you don't know, content creation, yet so that actually you can apply the learning. And the last person most important, which is actually teach, right? And then you have to leave them with one simple framework that they can go implement. I see a lot of people, post short form content or long form content where they share 3, 4, 5, 6 things that people can go implement. If you can teach one really powerful thing that people can now, take and implement in their business, that'll change the game for you. And that's what I focus on every single one of our short form pieces of content. I always ask, my team, what's the lesson here? Because we want to make sure that if we're making content, that we're actually teaching people stuff, not just entertaining them.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of people say, and I've heard you talk about like the importance of the hook.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's sort of like the email subject line from email marketing. It doesn't matter how good the body is. If people aren't opening based on that subject line, like nothing's happening after that.
Yeah.
So what have you found that has really helped from a hook standpoint, that first like 0 to 3 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few hook frameworks that I use. If you go on Instagram and you message me hook, I'll send you like my 5 hook frameworks, but I'll double down on 2 of them right now that I think are probably the most powerful. The first one's the labeling hook. And how you do this is you just label people. So it's like, if you're X, then Y, right? So if you say, if you're a business owner and you don't have an assistant, you're, wasting your time. That's a really powerful hook, especially if you're isolating, a business owner. If you're making over 100 or 300K, if you're making over 300K a year and you don't have a house manager, then you're, not really smart with your time, whatever, right? You could say, if you're a content creator and you want to make better content, if you're a snowboarder and you want to snowboard better, right? The labeling hook is really powerful because it'll, obviously hit on your total addressable market that's interested in that topic, but then also a wider market that maybe is aspirational, right? Because if I say, if you're making $1 million a year, yeah, the people that are making $1 million a year are going to listen to that video, but other people that are aspiring to make $1 million a year are going to listen to that video too, right? Labeling hook's really powerful. The other one is contrarian hook, right? So just hitting on as much, not controversy, but being contrarian in your content. So an example of that for us is like, I can tell how shitty a company is run by the amount of meetings that they have, right? That's a contrarian hook that not a lot of people would agree with. And it's all about counter positioning, right? Because there's positioning in the market and there's also counter positioning, right? And you want to make sure that, especially we're in a world where everybody sounds like each other on social media because they're all copying each other, you want to stand out in a sea of, people that are basically just saying all the same shit. So the more you can come into a market and say stuff that, one, you genuinely believe, right? That you actually believe in, and then two that you think is going to ruffle a little bit of feathers in the market, I would double down on that, especially in your hooks.
Yeah.
Because that was most of our viral videos, especially early on, is using a little bit of contrarian hooks to kind of double down on it. An example of that for Dan is this whole thesis about buy back your time is you don't have to hustle 80 hours a week to actually be successful, right? You can work 36, 40 hours a week, buy back your time, and still make hundreds of millions of dollars. And that was a contrarian view that came in the market in a world where every entrepreneur was telling you, bro, you have to fucking work till your eyes bleed. And Dan was like, no, you don't. You can literally work as much as you want and still live a life of, meaning and purpose and have fun while you do it. And we came in the market with that message. Obviously, the book had that message, and we were able to get traction. That's how I think 99% of people that are going from 0 to 100 should focus on that. Their counter positioning and what they actually believe in the market that most people don't.